The rain had been coming down for 2 hours when Diana Holt saw the white work van slow and pull onto the gravel shoulder ahead of her. She had been standing beside her dead Honda for 20 minutes, her blazer soaked through, her phone at 4% and dropping. The nearest town was 11 miles back. She hadn't counted the cars that had passed without slowing, but she had felt every one of them. And now this van, dented along the passenger side. A hand-lettered magnetic sign on the door that said MERRITT Plumbing. Eased to a stop on the wet gravel, as if stopping on Route 9 in a November downpour was the most ordinary thing a man could do. The driver's window came down. He was maybe 34, 35, with work clothes and 2 days of stubble, and the kind of unhurried calm that didn't seem to belong in the rain. He looked at her car, then at her. "Dead battery or something else," he said. "I don't know," Diana said. "It just stopped." He nodded, like that was a reasonable answer, and got out. He didn't make a production of it. He popped the hood, looked, put it back down. He said it was the alternator, that she wasn't going anywhere tonight, and that he could call Deacon's tow out of Glenfield if she wanted. He had the number. He made the call while she stood in the rain, and he stood in the rain beside her, and when the tow company said 45 minutes, he said, "I'll wait with you," in the same flat, certain tone he might have used to say it was Wednesday. "You really don't have to," she told him. "I know," he said. He had a folded canvas drop cloth in the back of the van. He spread it over the rear bumper of her car, and she sat on it, and he stood nearby, and they talked the way two people talk when the rain is loud and there's nothing else to do. She told him she was moving to Glenfield for a job. She'd been in Columbus before. She'd gotten the position in September. She was supposed to start on Monday. He told her he worked mostly residential, mostly older houses, that the county had a lot of them. "You from here originally?" she asked. "Born here," he said. "Figured I'd leave, didn't." He said it without complaint, and she believed him. The tow truck came in 40 minutes. While the driver was loading her car, Diana reached for her purse to get the cash for the cab the tow driver had arranged, and she stopped cold. Her wallet was in the center console of the Honda, which was already halfway up the flatbed. She said it out loud before she thought to stop herself, and what she heard in her own voice embarrassed her. "I have my phone. My wallet is in the car, and my phone is about to die." The man reached into his back pocket without hesitating. He pulled out 2 20s and held them out. She stared at them. "I can't take your money." "It's a cab fare," he said. "Not a loan, don't worry about it." "I don't even know your name." He folded the bills and pressed them gently into her hand. "Cal," he said, "have a good night." He got back in his van before she could argue. She watched the taillights of MERRITT Plumbing pull back onto Route 9 and disappear into the rain, and for a moment she just stood there on the gravel with 2 damp 20s in her hand, and the strange, full feeling of having been helped by someone who wanted nothing for it. She kept the $40. She told herself it was because she had no way to return it. She didn't know his last name. She didn't know which town. She didn't know anything except a white van and a magnetic sign, and a man who had stood in the rain without being asked. She folded the bills and put them in the back of her desk drawer the Monday she started at Meadow Creek Elementary, and there they stayed. The job was everything she'd hoped for and harder than she'd expected, the way the right jobs always are. Glenfield was a small town with old loyalties and a school that needed more than a new principal. It needed someone who would stay. Diana intended to stay. She learned the names fast. It was the thing she was best at, and she worked at it. Every teacher, every custodian, every parent who came through the office door. And she learned the children. All 214 of them, K through 5, though she'd be lying if she said they hadn't separated themselves in her mind by the end of September. Some of them you noticed. Some of them you couldn't help noticing. Addie Merritt was one of those. She was 7 years old, 2nd grade, Mrs. Paxton's class, and she had the unshakable confidence of a child who had been raised in a house where someone made time for her. She wasn't loud the way trouble was loud. She was loud the way ideas are loud, like she had something to say and had calculated that the world would be better for hearing it. She asked questions in the hallway. She held doors. She once stopped Diana near the gym and said, with great seriousness, that the mural near the water fountain had a factual error. The Ohio State bird was depicted without its proper red plumage, and would the principal like to know about it? Diana said yes, she would very much like to know about it. After that, Addie Merritt had a habit of finding her. It was never pest-like, never cloying. It was more that Addie had simply decided Diana was worth talking to, and Addie's decisions tended to stick. She told Diana about a book she was reading. She told Diana about the science fair. She told Diana, one October afternoon, about her dad's van and how he let her ride in it on Saturdays when he had small jobs, and how it smelled like pipe solder and the peanut butter crackers he kept in the glove box. She described him the way children describe parents they admire, matter-of-factly, as if his qualities were simply the established facts of the world. He fixes things, Addie told her once. Not just pipes, like all kinds of things. He fixed Mrs. Garner's fence last winter because she couldn't do it herself. That sounds like a good man, Diana said. Addie looked at her with complete sincerity. He's the best man, she said, and went back to class. Diana had put in the scholarship nomination in October before the first frost, before she knew anything about Addie Merritt except what she saw in the hallways. The Hargrove Enrichment Scholarship, one per district, funded by a private foundation, a full summer program at the State University for academically promising students from working families, with follow-on mentorship through 8th grade, had a nomination window she'd only just caught. She nominated 2 children. Addie was one of them. She told herself it was professional judgment. It was also true. By November, she had settled in enough to feel that Glenfield was hers, or that she was beginning to be Glenfield's, which was the same thing. She drove Route 9 to work every morning. She passed the stretch of gravel shoulder where her Honda had died. And some mornings she thought about it, and some mornings she didn't. The $40 stayed in her desk drawer. The parent-teacher conferences were scheduled for the second week of November. Diana made a point of being in the hallway during the evening session, visible, approachable, the kind of principal who didn't stay behind a closed door when families were in the building. She had a good instinct for the room. She could read a family's ease or anxiety from across the hallway, and she moved toward the ones who needed moving toward. She saw him the moment he came through the door. He was in clean clothes, not dressed up, just clean, the way a working man gets clean when the occasion calls for it. A flannel shirt and dark pants, and his boots still damp from a job that afternoon. He was holding Addie's hand, and Addie was pulling him forward with the focused urgency of a child who has somewhere important to be. Diana went very still. He hadn't seen her yet. He was looking at the room directory on the wall, finding Mrs. Paxton's number, and his face in concentration was the same face she had last seen in a November rain, unhurried and certain. She would have known him anywhere. The jaw, the hands, the way he stood, like a man who had learned not to take up more space than he needed. She walked toward him because there was nothing else to do. "Mr. Merritt." He turned. The moment he saw her face, she watched him work it out, the time, the rain, the gravel, Route 9, and she saw the exact instant it landed. He was quiet for a second, and then he almost smiled. "The Honda," he said. "The Honda," she said. Addie looked between them with the sharp attention of a child who has sensed that the adults are speaking in a frequency she hasn't heard before. "Do you know my dad?" she said. "I do," Diana said. "We met on the road." "He stops for people," Addie said, with the comfortable certainty of someone stating a law of physics. "He always stops." Diana looked at Cal Merritt and he looked back at her, and neither of them said anything for a moment. Then she said, "I've been trying to find a way to return something to you. Come see me after Mrs. Paxton's, if you have a minute." He looked puzzled, but he nodded. She saw them go down the hall, Addie still pulling. Cal following at her pace, and she went back to the hallway and did her job, and the hour moved the way conference nights move, crowded and warm and quick. When the hallway began to thin, she went to her office and sat down and opened the desk drawer and found the two folded 20s exactly where she'd left them, a little soft at the creases now from a year of sitting. He knocked on the open door at 8:15. Addie was with him, her coat on, her backpack on both shoulders, clearly prepared to wait as long as necessary. "Sit down, both of you," Diana said. Cal sat. Addie sat beside him and folded her hands on her knees with the patience of a child who knows something good is coming. Diana put the $40 on the desk between them. Cal looked at it for a moment. "You kept it." "I had no way to find you," she said. "I looked. I didn't know your last name, I didn't know your town. And then I moved here and started this job and met your daughter, and by the time I knew who she was, I had already," she paused and let it sit right. "I had already put her name in for the Hargrove Enrichment Scholarship." The room was quiet. Cal Merritt looked at her with the careful look of a man who wants to make sure he's understood something correctly before he reacts to it. "The summer program," he said, "at the university." "She was selected," Diana said. "The foundation notified me last week. I was going to call you before the week was out. Full summer enrollment, the mentorship track through 8th grade, transportation covered." She kept her voice steady and professional and felt none of those things. "She earned it on her own, Mr. Merritt. I nominated her in October because she was the right child. I did not know who her father was." Cal Merritt looked at his daughter. Addie was watching him with the particular radiance of a child who has just understood that something large has happened and who is waiting to see how her father will carry it. He took a breath that was slow and even and completely controlled. He put his hand over his daughter's and kept it there. "I don't know what to say," he said. "You don't have to say anything," Diana said. He picked up the $40. He looked at it for a moment and then he set it back on the desk. "Keep it," he said. "Give it to the first kid who needs it." Diana nodded she would. Addie turned to her father with the gravity of 7 years doing its most careful work. "Dad," she said, "I told you she was the best principal." Cal looked at Diana then, and this time he did smile, fully, the way a man smiles when the world has, against all his experience, turned out to be decent. It was not a grand thing. It was the smile of a plumber on a conference night in a small town who had once stopped on Route 9 in November rain and thought nothing of it. Diana thought of all the cars that hadn't stopped. She thought of $40 and a canvas drop cloth and the easy certainty with which he had said, "Have a good night." She thought about the children who would come after Addie through the Hargrove track, the ones she would nominate in future years. The way one stopped van on a gravel shoulder had made her want to earn the town she'd moved to. The hallway outside was quiet now. The school smelled like chalk and old wood, and the particular warmth of a building that has held a lot of children for a long time. "She's going to do something remarkable," Diana said. "Your daughter." Cal Merritt stood and put his hand briefly on the doorframe, the way a man touches a threshold before he goes back out into the world. "She already has," he said. He and Addie walked out into the November night, her hand in his, her voice rising already with something she needed to tell him, and Diana sat in her office for a moment with $40 on her desk, and the feeling that she had, at last, begun to pay it back.